The difference in tracks from last week to this week is absolutely astonishing because on one hand, you have grass on both sides during almost the entire lap in 170 turns over 16 miles. And on the other hand, you have a tight, twisty street circuit with concrete all over and not a single blade of grass in sight during the 11-turn, 1.9-mile lap. Fittingly for this season, the street circuit in Long Beach has played host to many prestigious series and frequently sees a lot of freak occurrences. For instance, Corvette hiding to win one year, a blockage, absolute blockage. It stopped everything out of the hairpin a year later. And this past year, even many solid IMSA drivers absolutely blew right past their braking markers and careened into the tire barriers. John, we're set up for what should be another great race here in Southern California today as we get ready to see who goes California dreaming.
Yeah, this one's going to challenge the drivers quite a bit. There's a lot of really slow turns that you're going into. Like you said, it's real easy to miss your marks and end up in the barriers. What everybody's going to have to do is be patient here, mind your P's and Q's, and try to survive here. I think initially, the first few laps anyway, when everybody's kind of bunched up, a lot of guys are comfortable at braking at different points, and that can lead to some trouble.
Austin Belke joined by John Hine in the booth with Daniel Costello behind the scenes in the production trailer. You can see some of the information about the track we're at here today. Like I said, 1.9 miles, 11 turns. Currently, the air temperature is 65 degrees Fahrenheit. The track is about 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a slick one, John. 25 minutes isn't a whole lot of time, you think, for a race to be done, but I guarantee these guys are going to be really wishing that they could change to another set of tires, just even the 25-minute race.
Yeah, triple digit temperatures are going to play havoc with the tires, and even just for grip. I mean, never mind the tire wear. Yeah, even when the tires are new and nice and got a lot of good left in them, it's going to take some of that grip away you normally feel in a new tire. So right off the bat, these guys, like I said, they're going to be challenged right from the get-go.
Certainly will. It's going to be a 25-minute race, number one. And then after that, the entire field gets inverted, and then we go for an additional 50-minute race. And that one, there is a mandatory pit stop. So these drivers, I'm not going to say are incentivized to like sandbag or anything, but if they do have a pretty poor first race, they can certainly rebound in the second one just because it is absolutely almost impossible to pass here as we get going. But without further ado, you can see the 10-minute practice time has wound down. Now time to go to the grid. Stuart Reynolds, he's the driver that's been dominating over in the EU Series, currently leading their points championship, lining up on pole with Kai DL in second position. Kyle Boss in third with Ethan Bass in fourth. Chase Wilson is fifth with Jeremy Littleton in sixth, and then seventh place is Harry Wills rounding out that pro field. In the Pro-Am category, of course, Blake Scott on pole with Shreyas Ventukaraju in second, Mark Scott in third, and Kyle Smith in fourth. In the fifth position in the Pro-Am category, you're going to have Justin Rousseau, and then in sixth, and that is Rich Calais. Rounding out our three fields today, Aaron Beaver sits on pole for the AM division with John Casey in second, Matthew Plaisance in third, and Greg Brockway in fourth. A little bit of a light field here today, and I think we were talking about that in the green room before the broadcast got started. This is the last opportunity drivers have to drop a race of their season. So, John, if you've made all the races to this point in the season and you kind of don't think you can do any better here than you did at a different track, you might as well just go ahead and sit this one out, add another vacation day to your schedule, as it were.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, that gives you an extra week off, and it's nice to recharge your batteries and make a championship run for some of these guys.
Stuart Reynolds leading the field here to the stripe. It's his obligation to start this race whenever he so chooses after the pace car leaves the track. He's going to put his right foot on the left pedal, rocking himself down towards turn 1. They're already 2 by 2. I believe that's Kyle Boss and Kai DL racing each other into turn 1. Looks like the winner right now. I think Kai DL found himself in the barriers there, the tire barrier outside of turn 1. In the Pro-Am category, Blake Scott just now choosing to put his foot on that accelerator pedal. He's got himself, what, a 4 or 5 car length lead as he goes down into turn 1. They're 2 by 2 behind him there for the second position. That should be Shreyas Ventukaraju and Mark Scott. Looks like Shreyas is going to have the position there as you see that pro field zooming on by. Last but not least, looks like Aaron Beaver has already started the race for the AM field. And already sitting up pretty orderly for these drivers.
Well, it's tight this first part going around the fountain and everything else, so they've got to get in the line pretty quick here, I would think.
John, I've done a lot of races here, especially in the GT3 cars. And I tell you what, the first couple laps here are the absolute hardest because the tires are so cold, as are the brakes. You saw one driver there getting a little bit loose. I believe that was Kyle Boss there in his Mercedes. Because the tires are so cold, there's not a whole lot of grip for these guys to be had. They're used to going around this racetrack at basically what is a 10/10. You really do have to give it your all at a place like this in order to make sure you're anywhere near competitive. You see Harry Wills. This is the first time I've ever seen Harry in real life. He's wearing an AC/DC shirt. Obviously, he's got some pretty darn good taste in music. Barely just give it a kiss at the wall.
Look how hard he was working, too. And think about this. This entire circuit, that's how hard you're working. So tonight's going to be, you're going to really have to be on top of your game because tonight's going to be a very, very difficult night to keep all corners of your car not being dented up or scratched up or make any contact here.
Yeah, I tell you what, even I think these drivers, I myself find myself mentally exhausted after running an endurance race at the Nürburgring like these guys did last week. Not quite the case with the street circuit. Usually with these tight, twisty circuits, I always find myself more physically exhausted than mentally. So we're going to see a lot of these drivers have to battle 2 of those different conditions in 2 back-to-back weeks. At the front of the field is Stuart Reynolds here in this pro category. Back further down in the pro field is Chase Wilson. He's currently in the 5th position. But you can see his real-life camera, one of the drivers that joined the Zoom call.
Well, these guys are using a lot of wheel in some of these turns, and the more, and you've heard me say this all season, the more you turn that wheel, the more you eat your tires up.
Back here in the Pro-Am category, taking a look at that BMW driver of Kyle Smith. He's got Rich Calais just up the road and ahead of him there in the 4th position. And then behind both those drivers is Justin Rousseau in his yellow and purple Ferrari. Just trailing both these guys, kind of just waiting in the wings. Looking here at Rich Calais, one of our drivers who's joined the Zoom session, so we can see all their setups. I mean, look at him; he's practically crossing fist over fist there, just trying to make that fountain turn.
Yeah, that's almost going full lock on your wheel just to get around that part of the track. And man, that's going to put a lot of heat in those tires for everybody because it's just not him that's doing that. We had in cars the last time they went through there, and same thing. So very, very physical here early on.
Up towards the front of the overall field, the race overall, not just in the pro category. You still have Stuart Reynolds up at the front. Kyle Boss did a good job running him down the last lap, but boy, this last time coming out of the hairpin there, I think Kyle put a lot of wheel into that car just trying to get it to turn. Ended up chirping the rear tires a little bit, got him loose, lost him a lot of time, especially coming down this front stretch here. It's the longest straightaway on the entire track, almost by a factor of 2 compared to every single other one. And it's so hard to wrestle these cars through that hairpin, John. Talking about finding the absolute lock of your wheel. I kind of struggled to get my wheel to invert past 180 degrees just with my dexterity. You know, so for these drivers, they're having to do that multiple times every single lap they go down here. You know, some drivers obviously kind of putting a lot of wheel into their cars, but boy, for that hairpin, the last corner on the lap, it's pretty much just absolute lock.
Yeah, and think about this too. This is when their tires are feeling good and they're fresh. Think about how they're going to be having to handle these cars when these tires start to give up just a little bit. I'm sure that you've experienced that with the amount of experience you have here. Once those tires start to give up, You really better be hitting your marks and backing your corners up, or you're going to find trouble pretty fast.
Yeah, the hairpin especially, because if you get in there a little bit too hot, you're practically going to have to slam that thing in reverse and do an Austin Powers style, 3-point turn or something absolutely ridiculous. And at that point, you're backing up the track, and you better if you just hit that darn toe key and went on down to pit road. It is really, really tricky to get around here, especially as the tires get further and further worn out. I mean, look at how close these guys are getting to the wall every single lap. Looking here at Mark Scott, watch him go almost all the way out to the wall. Another one of our drivers carrying that onboard cam. Currently, he's got the last spot on the podium with his Porsche. He's got a lot of breathing room, both in front of him and behind him. And just sitting in a rocking chair, we like to call it.
Well, our great producer Danielle had that in car at the right time. They were going through that hairpin there, and the amount of wheel. I'm trying to think of another circuit we visit. I don't know that there's anywhere we go where you're putting, have to input that wheel that much to get around a corner.
I can think of a couple places, but none on the calendar. I think Okayama might be one of them, and I think Twin Ring Motegi might be another one where you have such an absolute just hairpin of a corner where you need to go to the full lock of your steering wheel every single lap. Okayama, I feel like it's more like twice. Shreyas Ventagaraju here in his Audi, trying to see if he can hunt down Blake Scott in that BMW. Shreyas has got himself sandwiched between the Scotts.
Man, those guys are close to that wall coming out of there. Make me stand up in the seat about every time I come through there. And there's several places on the track like that. These guys are all being really smart. I think, the NASCAR series was just at Darlington. And how many times on that broadcast did we hear about, oh, you've got to race the track? That's, I think, what these guys are doing. I think they're racing the track, if, maybe just as much as they're racing others, if not more, here at this track.
Well, I think, street circuits kind of just lend themselves to the fact that these drivers really do need to race the track. It doesn't matter what other drivers are doing around you unless you have to take evasive action. It might be fine that guy ahead of you is within maybe a half a second or something, but boy, if you slip up, like we're going to see Aaron Beaver here do in just a second. Oh man, that's a weird place for a lazy spin. Luckily, though, he's able to keep that car off the wall. Gonna lose a couple positions there as you see a couple of the other drivers there in the pro category get on by him. He qualified on the pole. He might have already gained back one of those positions.
You talk about a weird place, but that was a good place, because there's some places if he would have spun like that, he would have ended up blocking the track and had a real problem.
Yeah, definitely, almost certainly either taking that rear wing off the car, put some downforce loss on that thing, or just just ruining the suspension on that car, the steering especially. Here's Matthew Plaisance. Oh man, he took a lot of curb there. Might be the same incident that we saw with Aaron Beaver. Oh, he's going to pass Aaron. Oh, yep. Didn't feel like he could make the corner. Yep, and that's why you saw Aaron only lost the one position. That's a weird mistake there out of Matthew. Not used to seeing him make mistakes like that, but that's exactly one of the things that can happen if you try to carry too much speed on the entrance to that hairpin, John.
Yeah, and when you make a mistake like that, that's a mental mistake, and we've all been there, done that. Those are a little harder to shake off, but if anybody can do it, Plaisance can do it. He's a solid driver. I think he'll be just fine here in the long run.
Ooh, you see Jeremy Littleton got extremely loose there off the hairpin. That's just, you can really get the car to rotate well if you use the rear axle instead of just the front to really just yaw out that car, but it does come at a price certainly later in the race. You might lose a lot of traction on that rear axle. We'll have to see, though. Luckily for him, it's the right race to be doing it, the shorter one of the two. Just a reminder, this first race for tonight, 25 minutes. Drivers are not forced to make a pit stop. And then the finishing results from this race will be inverted. That's how we set the starting grid for the next one. That's a 50-minute endurance race where drivers are required to come down pit road. There's a three-wide battle here for the lead in the Pro-Am category. Shreyas Ventagraju still in the second position. And Daniel, what'd you say we ride along here on board with Mark Scott just for a lap here so these folks at home can see just how demanding of a racetrack this really is. I mean, you have walls on both sides of you. You really need to pick out where you need to brake for each and every corner and how much you can cut the track and when to open up the wheel, because maximizing the track usage is how these drivers can really minimize the on-track lap time, and especially through that corner right there. It looks like you need to go a lot further out from the wall, but that wall really just is your apex.
Yeah, and you know the thing is, too, the guys in the front, you know, all you have to do is look out the front windshield, but like Ventagraju right here in the middle, he's looking out his front and his rear mirror. That is hard to do, especially on a track that has little to no room for air.
You can see finally riding on board with Mark. You can see him on board as well. We're going to get a really good look here at how he acts, especially into this fountain section. It's one of the most complex on the racetrack here because you're forced to go left, then back to the right to make sure you're set up here for this fountain corner. Get your right sides all the way up on that curbing there to make sure you wrap that back to the left and now back to the right again. Swing all the way out towards this wall. You want to make sure you're as far as possible to carry as much speed as you possibly can through that right-hander. Back out all the way to the left side. Now all the way over to the right. This is an especially tricky corner. There's a lot of bumps here on corner exit. You can really upset the car. You can see he's doing a good job of handling those bumps, but they continue to go all the way down this backstretch.
Yeah, and at the end of this backstretch too is another tricky turn, because this is one where you've got a lot of speed, and if you miss it by just a little bit, you're going to go right out into this wall over here.
Now back to the left, and now watch how much wheel he has to put into this car. Goes all the way out to the left. Watch him. Full steering lock to the right. Swings all the way back out to the wall on the left side. He's really using all the track possible. And it's just what you have to do to get lap time, but he's also trying to make sure he's right behind those two drivers in front of him in case he needs to pounce Jamie Littleton, bringing his Ferrari down pit road. That thing looks pretty hurt, and I think he's dog tracking.
Yeah, it looks like he might be a little bit too, and that could be a thing where you slid the back end into the wall. We're going to get a look at it here right now.
See what happens to Harry here. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely going to damage the rear end suspension of that car. And watch there. There was our Pro-Am drivers battling for the lead. Rich Calais, the next driver to go through there. And I have a feeling Harry's just going to hit the tow button here. Forever. Oh no, he's going to try and right the car again. Spin turn it. Good job though to make sure that all the drivers were through. Mad props for turning that car around.
Nice to have that kind of power under the axle there to spin those cars around like that.
Shreyas still locked in this BMW and Porsche battle between the Scots. There's Harry Wills all the way over to the side. Looks like he lost his rear wing too. Thought he had that the last time we saw him, but he might have lost it already. There's Rich Calais all the way back there in the background as well in the 4th position. A little bit over halfway through this first of the 2 races, the sprint race we like to call it.
For these guys that are spread out a little bit here, we got another replay coming here.
Okay, yeah, so this is Harry already backed the car into the wall once, goes around again. Locks it down. There you see, I believe that's Matthew Plaisance rolling on by. And Harry, oh, yep, that's how he loses the wing. Like how there was a collision, it waited a second and just went, I'm not feeling it, fell off the back of the car there.
Yeah, right before we saw that replay, Austin, I was going to ask you, since you're the one with the laps here at this place, we see some intervals now. Where at on this track can you make up ground? I mean, it seems like such a tough track, you know, and it seems like your opportunities, number one, to pass are very limited. But actually making up time, where can you do it here?
Well, I mean, to make up time, it's the same as every other racetrack, but you're a lot more limited in terms of where you can pass people because here you're really limited to the on track racing room that you're allowed by the walls on either side of you. I mostly end up gaining time here on apex speed. That's where I usually gain time on everybody else, is just not having to slow down as much. And maybe that's saving my tires in the earlier parts of the race so I can really still make sure I can attack towards the end. But otherwise, it's just making sure you get on the power extremely smooth. This being a street circuit, there's a lot of opportunities to slow the car down to some of these slow speeds, especially in the hairpin. It's super easy to just light up the rear axle off the hairpin, trying to make sure you get as good a run as possible down this front straightaway here. Because again, like I mentioned, it's so long, it's practically twice as long as any other straightaway on the entire circuit. So you want to make sure you get off the corner, but there's a lot of opportunities to go ahead and spin your rear axle in any other part of the racetrack as well.
Yeah, it's tough when you know you got that long straightaway coming ahead of you, not to just mash that gas a little bit harder to get that launch. And yeah, like you said, that's real difficult to stay disciplined there. And poor Harry, you know what? We gotta, someone's got to buy that man a pint before the end of after this race, because oh, tapped a little bit. He's working way too hard, but um, he's out there and having a go at it. So my hats off to him.
Yeah, I'm really
He's probably
surprised he
driving.
hasn't.
He's probably doing the best piece of driving than anybody out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, to go around here at speed without a rear wing on the car, and you can see how much he's fighting that thing. I mean, he's really just drifting that thing around right
Oh,
now.
there he
Oh, that's
goes.
not the place you want to spin out. I don't know who was behind him. I think it
Oh,
was
and he
Matthew
got hit.
Postas again.
Oh, they're
Oh,
all
no,
gonna
that was our
stack up.
leader. That was Stewart, and now he's got Kyle Boss just behind him. Barely just able to make it through. My goodness gracious. He has absolutely blocked the track there for a while. So Stuart Reynolds comes out of that collision there with quite a bit of damage on the front end of his Twisted Racing Lamborghini. I'll be curious to see how much downforce that's going to take off the car. Kyle Boss got a little bit of an impact there as well. I don't think it will quite hurt him as much. We'll see which of these three drivers continues to come out on top of this thing as the night goes on. We've still got about 7 minutes left in this race.
Yeah, luckily though, this is a track where, I mean, it's technically a short track, I think, as far as road races go, and your amount of downforce you need here isn't some like an Imola where you've got all that speed, or a Daytona. I think he's going to be okay to get away with having a little bit of damage here.
You say that, but I mean, downforce is absolutely crucial. I mean, these guys and most of the right-handers, they're still pulling about 60 mile an hour, and usually a good rule of thumb is anything over 50, you want to try to reduce the drag on the car or maximize the downforce. So, kind of two things to look at there as well. We'll see how much Stewart's impacted by that loss of front downforce, but so far it's not affecting him too much. And it's so hard to pass on this kind of circuit, really any street circuit in general. I don't think it'll cost him to lead, but if he does win, if I were him, that's one of the things I'd be blaming the loss on.
Yeah, but like I said though, compared to some other tracks we go to, if you're going to have that happen, this is the track to have it happen on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Is he back in this Pro-Am category? Not a whole lot of change for position here. It's still Blake Scott over Shreyas over Mark Scott. You've got Rich Calais. He continues to ride around in that fourth position. Justin Rousseau about another 6 seconds back behind these drivers. Look at Mark here. He's still kind of just waiting in the wings right now.
Yeah, he just looks calm as a cucumber, just cool as a cucumber, just sitting there. Kind of almost like an Iceman. He's just paying. Look at him stand up in that seat though a little bit. He comes to a more strenuous part of the track, a more tricky part of the track.
I'm surprised just how much wheel these guys are having to put in there through the fountain turn. Usually whatever kind of wheel you're putting into it for the left-handers is what you're putting in for the right-hand turn around it. So kind of shocked by that. But again, these drivers, different creature comforts, we like to call them, down steering ratios and all that.
Yes.
Brake bias, another one of those too. And at a place like this is one of those circuits you do need to manage your brake bias, because when you're on the brake at a place like this, a street circuit, it's practically treating every corner like a hairpin, because you need to get on the brake as much as possible. You're not just pushing the brake just enough to get the car to rotate around a corner. You are physically trying to stop the car each and every corner here. And that's why this track is so physically demanding on a driver.
Yeah, we've got less than 5 minutes to go, but I just saw a quick shot of the pits there from our race director, and I'll tell you, it's starting to kind of accumulate some cars there, that pit road. So we're seeing some attrition, and man, this isn't even the long race yet, but hey, we got a shot of Matthew Plaisance here, and saw him have a little bit of trouble early, and he's kind of recovered a little bit, just back up to the podium.
Yeah, he's having a pretty solid run here.
As I say,
And this place,
battling.
yeah, this place is tricky as well, just like how the Nürburgring was tricky. But at the Nürburgring, especially the Nordschleife, if you miss the apex a little bit to the inside of a corner, usually you aren't going to die. It's when you go a little bit too wide that you end up smacking the wall or going out in the grass and spinning out wide. But at a place like this, a street circuit, you know, not only is it bad if you go out wide because you probably smack a wall on corner exit, but if you cut the corner a little bit too close, you're just going to glance off that inside where the apex is on the corner, and that 10 times out of 9 is going to give you some steering damage, and if you're unlucky, a meatball as well. Stuart Reynolds back to his 1 second lead. It's an additional second there back to Kai DL. And then about another 4 to Ethan Bass. Ethan having himself a pretty solid run today.
Yeah, we saw Ethan get a win a few weeks ago here, so another capable driver, and he's going to benefit if things stay like they are now. He's going to benefit from that invert.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's got Chase Wilson, Harry Wills, and Jeremy Littleton behind him. And sometimes when these drivers have a really, really poor run like Jeremy Littleton, I mean, he didn't last very long before he brought that car down into the pits. You have to run 50% of the laps for you to get points out of these races. I wouldn't be too surprised if Jeremy Littleton or Harry Wills kind of just left the session here unless they can get some more laps in. Looks like Jeremy Littleton is going to continue to try and put down some laps. That's probably why we saw Harry as well stay out on the racetrack as much as he possibly could. He's just trying to get any points that he can. It's not just like IMSA, where if you start the race and roll across the start line, you're guaranteed at least dead last points here. You do need to run 50% of the race distance laps in order to score any points at all. So these drivers, I mean, you know, you do need to start the race, but you also need to finish at least half of it. Boss has started to slip away from Stuart Reynolds there in second position, and if he isn't too careful, he's going to have Kai Dial up on his rear bumper in a matter of seconds here. He's closed that gap down to 9/10 of a second. It was a little over 1 second a couple minutes ago. Looks like we have the opportunity to chat with Harry Wills. Harry, man, it looked like you had some bad luck out there on the racetrack, and then despite all that, you decided to put your foot down and continue lapping without your rear wing.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if it was really helping the car or not, to be honest. It was pretty bad, that was. I don't know how Kyle's out there doing that in the Mercedes. I don't know how he's doing it. I cannot drive that car around here today. I'm having a really horrible time.
If I'm honest with you, I feel like it's got to be setup-based. I mean, the Mercedes is my car of choice, and I've never come here and not had a great time with it. So I feel like it's just got to be set up. Maybe he's doing something with the springs or something, downforce related. I don't know, but the Mercedes is usually my car of choice as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but that was probably not my finest moment of sim racing, to be fair.
I'll agree with you on the second point. On the first point, I think it's just a direction you go with the setup change, and and at some point you guys diverged, and he went to a car that was handling better, and yours was just trying to go for speed or something, or trying to chase handling, and then you come here. I mean, the track is what is it? It's got to be 93 degrees, so it's cooled off quite considerably. But boy, whenever the track changes that significantly during a race like this, the cars handle a lot differently than what you're used to racing in. And it looks like Stuart Reynolds has crossed the start-finish line here. Looking here at Blake Scott in the Pro-Am category as he gets ready to, he's only got a couple more corners there, and he just has to get through the hairpin one more final time. Love this camera angle shot, this drone view, as it were. He's got to come out of the hairpin here and take the checkered flag for the 25-minute race in Long Beach. We've had that point total quite nicely. Treyas in second, Mark third, Rich Calais looking to come home in the fourth position. Now Aaron Beaver heading down this long back straightaway. He has a couple more corners. Aaron's going to come off the hairpin corner. Quite easily take the checkered flag here. And just a reminder, too, he was that one driver that spun out in the last couple corners earlier on in the race. Got that thing pointed in the right direction. He's still going to take on the checkered flag here. John Casey in the second position. He is the last driver to cross the start-finish line in the session. And Daniel, I believe we're going to go talk to Harry is still with us in the booth first, and then we'll go to finishing order. All right. Well, Harry, I mean, given what you experienced in that first race, is there anything you could do to change the setup of the car handling-wise to make sure you can at least bring the thing home in one piece?
I don't know. We're going to have to try something though, because that was undrivable nearly. So we'll try a few bits and pieces and see what happens. But I think I give Stuart a nice brown trouser moment there as coming out of the hairpin. So that would have woke him up and hopefully didn't affect the results too much. But yeah, it was an interesting race. But it's a really difficult track, this is, for the guys. So they're doing better than I am. Put it that way.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think he almost gave us up here in the booth a brown shorts moment as well. when you spun around in that hairpin there, I was going to be shocked if there wasn't somebody like 2 seconds behind you. And sure enough, like there was Stuart, like, oh boy, how is this going to go down? But Harry, I really appreciate you taking the time to come up and talk to us. And I really hope you can take advantage, man, of starting on pole position for the next race. And hope maybe you can go down there and talk to Kyle, see if you can get his setup or something.
I don't know. I've got to talk to someone. But yeah, no, guys, thank you very much. Great job as always. And yeah, fabulous. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Harry. That was Harry Wills, driver number 95 Mercedes. Came up and talked to us for just a second, and now we can go and look at the overall race results. Starting with the Pro category. Stuart Reynolds comes home with the checkered flag there. Kyle Boss second. Kai Tiel rounds out the podium spots with Ethan Bass in fourth. Chase Wilson in fifth. Jeremy Littleton sixth. And Harry Wills in the seventh spot. Moving now on to the Pro-Am category. Blake Scott came home with the win, followed by Shreyas Ventukaraju and Mark Scott rounding out the podium. Rich Calais in fourth. Hopefully for his sake, he petted that championship points lead with Chester Ristow in fifth and Kyle Smith in the sixth position. And rounding out the three categories, Aaron Beaver came home to take the win in the AM category, followed by John Casey on the podium with Matthew Plaisance in third and Greg Brockway in the fourth position. And with that, that's the entire race results rundown here for race number 1 of tonight. It kind of looks like we're still waiting for some of our drivers to come talk to us. So while we wait, why don't we go ahead and thank our sponsors for the reason the broadcast is even allowed to come out to you, the fans at home. Race Anywhere, they're a big distributor of sim racing products based in the United Kingdom, specializing in some of the highest quality sim racing brands such as ProSimU, GSI, OBP, and many more. Go for the Gap. Cami Sturch is an up-and-coming motorsport graphic design and artwork creator. She runs an Etsy page. Just Google Go for the Gap on Etsy. You'll find the page. She's got stuff if you like Formula One, Rallycross, NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, anything with 4 wheels and a motor. She's got some for you. I think she even has some motocross stuff and superbikes as well. And IMB Racewear, they're a phenomenal company. They offer a huge range of fully customizable, bespoke, no limits really to what they can offer for customizable race and team wear for an entire lineup of their product range. You can check out their website. There is a link to that in the description below. All right, going through championship results next. We'll go ahead and start here with the pro category. Coming into tonight, Harry Wills was your points leader with about 21 points over Ethan Bass. Kyle Boss was in the second position. Kyle's been on quite the hot streak lately with Kai DL in fourth and Chase Wilson in fifth. Taylor Lane and Alex Murray, they're rounding out the top 10. Fortunately, neither of those two drivers racing here tonight. And in the Pro-Am category, like I said, Rich Calais came into tonight with the championship lead. Pretty narrow, though. Only a 7-point swing between he and Blake Scott. And with Blake Scott winning the race tonight, it's going to get even tighter. We'll see how things shake out in the second race. Justin Rousseau rounds out the podium with Shreyas Ventukaraju in fifth. And then going down into the Am category, the championship has been really between two drivers, Matthew Plaisance and Aaron Beaver in the Am category. Coming into tonight here, we'll see which driver currently heads up the points. Looks like we're having some SDK difficulties here. All right, we're just going to get that up when we can. It doesn't look like, though, anybody is waiting in the waiting room to come talk to us, so I think we might go here on a break. It should be about 10 minutes or so before we get the next race started, so go ahead and look at the clock. It's about 9:08 Eastern Time, so 8 past the hour. Maybe come back at 15 past, and we should be back ready for you. Austin Belke, John Hine with you here in the booth with Daniel Costello with us behind the scenes. He's in the production trailer. When we left you guys just before this last break, we were giving you a rundown with the AM category points championship standings. And Daniel, I think we can take another look at those here. Matthew Plaisance enters tonight with a very narrow 1-point lead here over Aaron Beaver. I can tell you folks right now that is already flopped because Aaron finished first. Matthew finished third in that most recent race here. John Casey in third. John and Greg are both here tonight, so still anybody's game. This, of course, is, though, the last race you can drop for the season. 10 races, 2 drop weeks. And drivers now getting the last of their 10-minute practice in before we go green flag racing for another 50 minutes here tonight. We just got done with our first of 2 races, 25 minutes. John, in that race, it was pretty much just balls to the wall, run as hard as you can. You don't need to worry about fuel or tires. But for this one, twice the amount of time we had to go through. These drivers will need to make a pit stop in order to make sure they can finish the race on fuel. I'll be curious to see these drivers can take tires and fuel at the same time. Should see a lot of guys down there taking all 4 tires.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to be determined after that race. I'm sure a lot of the guys went to the garage and looked to see where their tire wear was, and if it's acceptable, that we won't see a tire change. If it's not, we could have some pit stops that consist of the tire changes here. But I think it's going to be more how much damage do you got? Are you going to have to take any kind of optional repairs or anything? We saw a lot of contact with walls that first session.
We certainly did. Good to see Dean Timms out here once again. He's got Rich Calais just behind him in that brightly colored Lamborghini. So those 2 drivers follow each other here in their 10-minute practice as that continues to wind down. Just about 5 seconds left in that. And then we'll go ahead and run through the starting order for tonight's 50-minute endurance race. And again, just a reminder, the starting field, the starting lineup for this race is a complete inversion of the finishing results from the last one. So if you finished last place in your championship category, you're going to get to start on the pole for this one, assuming you completed 50% at least of the laps. And it looks like Harry Wills did. He's going to start on pole with Jeremy Littleton in the second position. Chase Wilson's going to line up in third, followed by Ethan Bass in fourth. Kai Diel, Kyle Boss, Stuart Reynolds round out the next 3 positions. That would be the complete finishing order. Stuart Reynolds won the last race, so he'll start at the tail end of the field for this one. However, Dean Timms is here for this race, wasn't for the last one. He starts at the end of the field. And then in the pro category, Kyle Smith finished bottom of the totem pole last race, so he's got Justin Rousseau to his outside in second. Mark's got third, Shez Ventukaraju fourth, Blake's got fifth, Rich Calais in the 6th position. And then in the AM category, Greg Brockway first, Matthew Plaisance second, John Casey third, and Aaron Beaver in the 4th spot. And that is the complete rundown of your starting order for the 50-minute race here. Looks like Harry Wills has not taken to the starting grid, so it's going to be up to Jeremy Littleton to get this race started for the pro category. The driver's now heading, a little bit of contact between, I think that was Kai Diel and Ethan Bass there as they try to negotiate that hairpin. It's tricky going through there 1 wide, much less 2 cars wide. iRacing pace car down onto pit road. And now it's up to Jeremy Littleton to start this race whenever he so chooses. Right there, he's going to put his foot on the loud pedal. Pretty good start there as well for Chase Wilson just behind. You see Dean Timms and Harry Wills doing a little bit of a burnout out of their pit boxes. They're 2 wide here for the 3rd position. Looks like Kai Diel's going to have it. Ethan Bass not going to try charge him, and Kyle Boss looks down the inside as well. And now we'll go back and look at the Pro-Am category. Kyle Smith led the field away. Well, he pretty much almost archie-bargy there between Kyle Smith and Mark Scott. And then in the AM category, these guys are just getting started way too fast, John. Greg Brockway leads the field down into turn 1. Just like that, Aaron Beaver trying to take that 3rd position away from John Casey. Looks like he will.
We talked earlier about it being a difficult track to. We talked about it earlier about being a difficult track to pass. With this inversion, we're going to test that theory on just how difficult it is to pass.
Oh, I don't think anybody is going to argue that it isn't difficult to pass here, but I think what we might end up seeing is some of these guys that are, quote unquote slower, that started towards the front end of the field might be nicer to these guys and kind of help them by. Oh, there goes Matthew Plaisson spinning into the inside wall. That is not something you usually see out of that Ferrari driver. I believe he's already towed as well. Oh no, this is him. Yep. Yeah, a lot of damage to the front end of that Ferrari. We'll see if he can recover towards the second end of this race, but he's got a lot of ground to make up and a lot of positions if he wants to continue to finish right with Aaron Beaver. Chase Wilson in the second spot. That's that white BMW C-Trailnet Twisted Racing Ferrari of Jeremy Littleton just up the road. He's got another Twisted Racing driver, Kai DL, just behind him in that Lamborghini, and then Kyle Boss. To see how fast Stuart Reynolds climbs up through the field as we complete the first lap here. He's still in the sixth position now, so he has gained one spot, but again, that's Harry Wills, did not start the race, and it looks like he didn't start for a reason. He did not have the packets, so we got to remove them from the session.
Yeah, that's something no iRacer wants to see, is that you lost your packets. That'll ruin your race for sure.
Kyle Smith there in a three-wide battle. That's Rich Calais in the middle, and Shreyas Ventakaraju all the way over to the left. Kind of got the wall there just a little bit. Oh, missed a braking marker a lot. Slammed the tire barrier there.
That was awful ambitious, and he paid a big price.
Oh, there's Dean Timms facing the wrong direction. Wonder what happened to Dean. Trying to spin turn that car around, not quite able to do it. See if we can get a replay here in a couple minutes. Still that Pro-Am battle there. Rich Calais fourth, Kyle Smith in fifth. This is in the AM category. Greg Brockway still holds the lead over Aaron Beaver. See if Aaron can put on any kind of move here going into turn one. I don't think he's going to be close enough or have the overspeed, but he might just give him a little bit of a fake out here. Nope, he's going to be respectful about it, just waiting. And honestly, if you're Aaron Beaver right now, you know you're faster, John, and all you can do at this point in the race, if you want, you do have the opportunity, the luxury, I should say, of having there, basically about 47 minutes still left in this race. You can just wait for that guy to make a mistake up the road. That's one of the only ways you can get a position here, unless you do something weird, crazy, out of left field and make a move for a position. Goes Aaron Beaver just before they get down to the back straightaway, so he's already going to have the lead, and he was the winner in our first 25-minute race, so he's gone all the way from worst to first there in his own category. Gonna check out a replay here. This is what happened to Dean Timms. You should see Shreyas on the left-hand side of the screen right there backing up, and I think Dean might have just taken a little bit too much of that inside curb. Bounces the car with the nose off that right side wall and tries to spin turn it. Not quite successful. And I think Shreyas had even more damage. He saw him go almost straight on into the next wall too. Getting word here that Matthew Plaisance has gone around and crashed his Ferrari once more. See if we can get a replay of that as time goes on. The driver we're following right now is Ethan Bass. That's the driver of the purple, Ford GT3 car. He's got Stuart Reynolds just behind him. Stuart qualified on the pole and won that last race, but as you can see just how tricky it is to pass cars around here. He is still the last driver running with the pack here in this pro category. I'm Stuart right now, John. Kind of looking at what point during the race can I pit and still make it on fuel, and that's when I'd pit. You might even maybe be a little bit aggressive about it too, because otherwise you're not going to make up a whole lot of positions. That was a pretty good pass there. Kyle Boss just put on, I believe, Chase Wilson. Yeah, Kai DL has gotten past Chase Wilson as well.
Yeah, it's a great point you made about, when to pit. If you've got damage, we just saw Harry Wills have some damage, and we saw what kind of struggle both inside the car and on the track it was for him just to make a simple lap. So if you've got damage in that car with the has just a little bit out of whack, you better go get it fixed, because again, we've talked about it. This track does not have room for error, and having a wounded car, you're probably gonna make some errors.
Yeah, and it's one thing too to make an error that affects your own race, but you saw Harry Wills. I mean, could you imagine if Stuart Reynolds was able to get by and then Harry made the drivers in second and third place stop instead of all three of them? That, I mean, I'm guarantee he would have felt bad. So it's one thing to ruin your own race. It's a completely different feeling to ruin some of the races of other drivers. There you see Matthew Plaisance taking a little bit too much curve there for the left-hander, gets that car upset like we saw him do in the earlier race. Lazy spin there. Luckily, though, for him, he didn't hit anything. He's able to get that car turned around. Battle here for the lead in the pro category. Jeremy Littleton still holds a lead over Kai DL. Then there's Kyle Boss. He's been on a hot streak in the last couple races. Stuart Reynolds there continues to be the kind of the man bringing up the rear in this situation. And John, I'm not sure if he doesn't have quite the speed to pass Ethan, or he's kind of just here to say, if I'm going to take points away from any of these drivers possibly fighting for a championship, I'm either going to take away some points from everybody or no points from anybody and kind of just ride around here, because it's always been kind of a touchy subject for race car drivers for somebody to come into the race series kind of late into the season and just kind of start running amok, as it were. And we come into that a lot of times in our Saturday night, Friday night series, where there's four per year.
Yeah, everybody that joins usually, is pretty mindful of what's going on and what the score is. And you should enter a league by just concentrating on getting laps and letting people know how you race on the track, gaining their trust. That's what you should be doing the first few weeks you join any league. Just trying to build a rapport on track with guys and gaining trust.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that might be what Stuart Reynolds is doing right now. Like we said, he's the leader of the point championship for the pro category in the EU series. So to see him come over here and do well, not really a surprise, but to have him kind of have this mindset as well. Not a big surprise either. A lot of the guys that do this league race stuff, we kind of all have that mentality of, league racing is for friends, and you kind of know everybody and know who you're racing with, and there's a lot more respect from car to car than you might see in an official race.
Good side-by-side battle here with Ethan Bass.
That's a close one.
Sure is. And I was wondering how they were going to settle that before the fountain, because you definitely do not want to still be battling for position going into that fountain area or that chicane at the end.
This is a ride on board here. This is trailing that white BMW there. That's Chase Wilson out the windshield of Ethan Bass here in his purple Ford. You can see he's still got Stuart Reynolds just behind him, and these guys continue to lose time because of Chase to those front three drivers there. That's your podium continuing to get further and further away here from Chase. Ethan going a little bit wide there. I don't think he's going to like the outcome of this. Reynolds, I don't think he's going to be able to let that one slip up. And you can see he directed the brake a lot through there to make sure he didn't bounce on him on corner exit. I was surprised Ethan even made the corner.
Yeah, I am too. And he's going to have to get himself, use this straightaway here to kind of get yourself recalibrated, because coming into this section of the track, you don't want to be, you saw him kick that car sideways. You don't want to be flustered going through that part of the track.
Yeah, he's really continuing to give it everything he had. Shreyas Fentagaraju has mainly disconnected from the session, so you can see definitely had a lot of damage on the front end of that car as they're too wide here. This is not a place you want to go too wide for a whole lot of the racetrack. As you can see, Rich Calais, Mark Scott battling out. Looks like Rich is going to get the better end of that deal as you're trying to hunt down Justin Rousseau. Good couple seconds up the track. That's a yellow and purple Ferrari there, just up the road by about 2 seconds or so. Jeremy Littleton, side by side here with Kyle Boss. Kai Dial has gotten around Jeremy as well for the overall lead. Ooh, touchy RG Bargy going through here, and I don't know if I'd want to do this. Almost certainly going to spin a car out. Yep. Jeremy Littleton getting the wrong end of that deal. And Chase Wilson, I think he thought he was going to be clear, and ended up tipping Jeremy the rest of the way around. And this is 2 bad races in a row here tonight for Jeremy at Long Beach. Yep, calling it out over the in-game radio. Well, drivers to stay wide at the hairpin.
A lot of track position here lost.
Gonna go ahead and get a replay. This is Mark Scott. See his Aerokinetics Porsche here. Come out of the hairpin. Oh, he just self-spun out. And then, oh, there's Justin Rousseau. Had to check up, as did Rich Calais, and then here comes Kyle Smith in for good measure as well. I was wondering why all these guys were packed so tightly together, also suddenly, and that is the, I guess that's how it came to be. Mark Scott now in the 4th position. He was leading the race before that happened. Trying to see if he can't possibly get back up the field here, and this is one of the harder places to do it. So easy to make a mistake. It's so hard to get all that ground back.
Yeah, and we've seen it now a couple times. When you make that mistake, you're not the only one that's going to probably be involved in that mistake either.
It's especially in the hairpin there as well. Some of the other points of the track, you can be lucky sometimes, or maybe not just unlucky. And there's nobody around you, or maybe they can run wide. It's a certain part of the track where they can see it coming. But that hairpin, it's difficult to get through there, even if you're by yourself. So when there's a car kind of blocking a portion of the track, or you need to do something out of the ordinary that you don't even know you have to do until you get right up on it, it's extremely hard as well. Ethan Bass continues to hold that position there. This is now the 3rd position. You saw Chase Wilson there get pretty bent out of shape. So we're running Ethan up into 3rd, and Stuart Reynolds into 4th. Looks like Harry Wills is manually disconnected as well. I don't think Harry had any problems. The odds are his confidence was probably hurt after missing the initial start of the race, and I think after that point he's like, you know what, not enough points to be scored to salvage in order to not drop this race, so he's going to go ahead and just continue to sit the rest of this one out.
Yeah, and if he's not going to do any better in any other race that he's already logged, then there's no point. I think I see guys. I think I saw Ethan Bass duck to pit road.
Yeah, I think he's one of those drivers, and he did have a decent amount of damage there on that purple car of his, so I think he's hoping he might be able to get that repaired and back out onto the racetrack. But it is interesting to note there for you folks at home, these drivers have no fast repairs, and a fast repair is basically an instantaneous complete fix of the car minus floor damage. iRacing, for whatever reason, doesn't like to do that. So he'll have to go down pit road, and whatever it would take in quote-unquote real life to fix the car, that's the amount of time he'll have to spend down there on pit road. So he definitely will not be straightening out that rear wing of his.
They do get to keep the tire wear, though. The car, that's also what doesn't change. So if you come in and you've got 75% left on your tires, you're going out with 75% left of your tires.
Although I assume he's going to fill that car up with race fuel, so he should be on pit road long enough to change all 4 of those tires. We'll see how it goes for him. I think it's a little bit too early to pit and make it the rest of the way without having to pit again.
Well, most of the times that we've run these in any kind of endurance race, you can get about an hour on a fuel run, and that's pretty static everywhere we go. And here's an ambitious look going into that hairpin.
Yeah, even the Mercedes are reduced to 60% as well. So even if you could run an hour, you're probably gonna run out at about the 30 minute, or not 30, probably 45-minute mark, maybe 40-minute mark, with a 60% of fuel. So these guys, maybe he's right inside his fuel window as well.
I forgot about the lighter fuel load. That does make a big difference, obviously.
Yeah. So Rich Gallet continues to hold on to the second position. He's got Mark Scott just behind him, and Mark Scott again is that driver of the Porsche who did that little bit of a self-spin coming out of the hairpin, so he's really hungry to go wrestle that win away from Blake Scott just up the road here in front of Rich, and it's a long way. I mean, 8 seconds from first place of Blake Scott to Rich Gallet in second. So Smoking the Bandit would say he's got a long way to go, and I would say a short time to get there. You know, he still has another half an hour, a little bit, but you know, time's running out. And I think Blake's continuing to pull away.
Yeah, but when you're as busy as these cats are inside your car, that time goes by in a quick hurry. Unless you're struggling mightily, then the time never ends. It feels like you've been in there. It feels like you're in a true endurance race and you're in the middle of a 3-hour stint.
Well, yeah, every time these drivers go through that last corner, a mixture of the shadow of the tree on the ground and that chain link fence there, it just seems like there's always smoke as soon as you come out of that corner. Dean Timms, it looks like, is also disconnected from the session. So after the early troubles we saw him having, he's decided to pull the plug on tonight's race.
Yeah, and I'd have to believe if this was early in the season, they'd probably tough it out to see what kind of points they would get. But knowing where they stand and being the last time that they can do a drop week, probably nothing lost by packing it in early.
Yeah, especially, man, at this point in the season, you know how many points you need to score in order for this race to count. Guys like Harry, Deems, Shreyas, they've had a lot of good weeks to this point in the season, and I think it's going to be really difficult for them to outdo one of those better races.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, Stuart Reynolds. He had a big mishap going to the pits. He bounced off the tire barrier. Matt Kenseth at Dover in 2003 style or something. Maybe we can get a replay of this. You see Rich Calais. So we're on the chopper camera overhead. He's got Mark Scott just behind him. Yeah, Stuart Reynolds. He slammed the barrier coming to pit road. The tires bounced off it. That's how hard he hit it.
Well, and this is a very tricky road, pit road to get on too. As you come out of that hairpin, you've almost got little to no time to all of a sudden hang another right to get on that pit road.
Boy, that was a cool kind of overview of the battle going on between both those drivers, and then the onboard cameras of both those guys, Rich Calais and Mark Scott, the hunter and the huntee. Prey. It's a replay here. Stuart Reynolds is going to go through the hairpin right now. And then the pit lane here, oh, he nosed the car into the wall just a little bit, over rotation there off the hairpin. The entrance to pit lane is just to the right about there. It's a quick one. And unfortunately from that camera angle, you can't see it, but he nosed into the end of the pit wall, bounced off it, and then got going again. That's why he has even more damage to the front end of that car. This is back to live. Stewart has left the pits. He's back out under Ray's pace. Be quite interested to see which of those two drivers, Ethan Bass or Stuart Reynolds, has a position. My assumption is it'll be Ethan Bass. I think he had a lot cleaner pit road entry time. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, Ethan is quite handily a lot further up the track there. This is another replay. Oh, yeah, finally, we'll get to see a good view here. He's going to duck off to pits right there, and then bam! That's a hard hit. If that were real life, he'd be concussed, maybe. That was a hard one.
Wow.
Boy, yeah, that's one of the harder hits I've seen anybody take, especially trying to come to pits. I mean, that is not very often do you see that happen, John.
No, and like I said, this pit road is a little weird to get on. It's like a break in the wall that you're trying to turn in, where most pit roads have an access road or, you know, a place for you to kind of get slowed down and follow. This thing, you're just shooting for essentially shooting for a space between the walls.
Yeah, exactly. You're just trying to kind of thread the needle, you know, thread the eye of the needle there. And yeah, not a whole lot of opportunity there to mess that one up, or I should say to get that one wrong. You know what I mean? Super easy to mess
Absolutely.
it up and slam that car into the fence.
You mean the opposite of what just happened.
Yes, yeah. It's very easy to mess up the entry to pit road like that. It's John Casey, currently in third position in the AM category. We approach about halfway through this 50-minute race. It's getting closer and closer to Greg Brockway here. Anthony Plaisance down into the pits again. This is for the second position overall in the AM category. Riding on board now with John. See just how tight of a racetrack this really is. It gets wider in some areas than in others, but it continues to, I mean, super tight, close quarters racing.
It's kind of crazy that iRacing has this track now. We're watching races on it. How long did this track stay in that test mode for? How many years? I don't know how long you've been on iRacing, but when I joined iRacing over 10 years ago, this track was part of it, and I know guys were chomping at the bit. Now we're seeing kind of why that, you know, it's very, very difficult to get around, but this racing is still fairly good because it's still up for grabs, because all it does is take one mistake and this race gets turned upside down.
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't aware, iRacing scanned this track at least 10 years ago, and it was a quote-unquote test track for many years. I think if you bought it when it was back still as a test track, it was like, what, $3 or dollars or something. And to buy it after they fully released it and had all the, you know, the map data around here, like the signage, the trees everywhere, it was back to that full price, the $10 or $12 or whatever. But before that, I mean, for years, you could race around here and you could understand the layout of the track. They had the walls out there and the fencing around it as well, but it was like racing in the Matrix or something, John. It was weird.
It was very weird. The track doesn't even have that kind of vibe now. I mean, it was amazing that, yeah, it's the same layout, but visually driving around everything else, your points, even where you're braking and turning, it all was just considerably different
Rudimentary.
with everything in there.
You can see Stuart Reynolds here in the 5th position. He's done a great job to catch up to Ethan Bass. And now the easy part, if you could call it easy, is over. It's time for the hard part to see if he can go up there and pass him. Just behind both those drivers is Blake Scott. That's that bright yellow and dark gray Mercedes just behind. He's currently the leader in the Pro-Am category, and I think he's been doing a good job of running down. I think Stuart's been doing a good job of staying ahead of him, but I think Ethan is definitely just a touch slower than the damage he's got on that Ford. Officially halfway through here of the 50-minute race. See which driver wants to give first. Looking here at Mark Scott in the 4th position. Just a spot to Justin Rousseau. He was following Rich Gallet for a while. Must have done something to give up that position there to Justin. Oh, he pitted. We're getting word that Mark pitted. Thank you, Daniel. So the reason Mark went from 3rd to 4th is because he went down into the pits. Blake Scott is taking his car down pit road as well. See Stuart Reynolds back all over the rear end there of Ethan Bass once again. So Rich Calais assumes the lead in the Pro-Am category. These guys continue to stay in each other's tire tracks.
Yeah,
Especially
and
as you get, go ahead.
I was gonna say, then this is a great point that you made earlier, is just how hard it is to pass. I mean, I think Stewart is a bit faster than what Ethan is, but really doesn't have a way around him.
Yeah, he's about 3 or 4 tenths of a second faster, and the problem is he's faster through the corners. So he gets a better run through the corners, but it's so hard to time your run because the track is really, really narrow, and it's especially narrow through the corners. You know, even though it looks like these corners are pretty wide, the rubber from these cars is all about, you know, one, maybe a width and a half off the apex. If you go any wider than that, you're having to put extra wheel in the car, either into or off the corner, or you're out in the marbles. And once you go out in the marbles, John, I mean, you can talk to this too. It's like you're practically driving on ice.
Yeah, your grip just completely goes away, and you know, you don't necessarily get loose. What you really do is get a tight condition, and when you get in the marbles here, and what we say by that is getting off the racing line, where a lot of the excess rubber, believe it or not, here in iRacing, yes, there are, you know, bits of rubber that come off the tires and will land other outside the groove on the tracks, just like it does in real life. And if you get in there, the next time you go and grab a handful of wheel to try to turn, next thing you know, the car doesn't turn, and that's usually what you experience. Once you get on, you know, get offline, whether it be on grass or even out in the marbles here, as we were talking about.
Yeah, and like John said, it's not just, you know, a push condition or a loose condition. It's just sliding. So if you get on the throttle too hard, the rear end's going to step out, and if you try to stop the car too much, put too much wheel into it, you're just going to push into the corner. So really, it's just like on ice. No tires grip. They're all equally ungrippy and just as useless here. So you see Stewart, Reynolds go for a dive bomb. I wouldn't say it's a dive bomb, but it is a clean pass, though, just before they get started to go down the backstretch. So good pass there for Stewart. See just how good a job he could do pulling away from Ethan here.
And that was a really good sign of a driver being really, really patient. Because like you said, 0.3 of a second quicker. He didn't push anything. And, you know, part of that could be because he's not running for this championship. He's running for the UK one. So, yeah, that was a nice bit of driving there from Stewart.
Yeah, it certainly was. He's got about 45 seconds there up the road to Kai DL and another Twisted Racing Lamborghini. However, Kai still has yet to make his pit stop for tonight. You can see two of the AM drivers there, Greg Brockway, John Casey, kind of sandwiching Kyle Boss there, the leader in the pro category. All three of those cars down onto pit lane. Getting word here, Matthew Plaisance is disconnected from the session as well. So lots of damage on the front end of that Ferrari, definitely not to Matt's liking, so he's gone ahead, disconnected from the session. Kind of surprised by that. I figure at least at one point in the season he would have had a finish below 4th position. Good points, Dave. If you can hack it. If you can hack this place too. And this place, I kid you not, John, is one of the hardest racetracks in the entire iRacing service.
Well, I'll tell you this. I did the 24 hours of Nürburgring over the weekend, and I find this place more difficult than that. And most people tell me that Nürburgring is the most difficult. I have a harder time getting around this than I do the ring.
Well, I think the hardest part about the Nordschleife is that you have to memorize each and every corner and make sure you can push the car for so long. I mean, it's a 16-mile lap, whereas here it's a lot shorter of a lap. It's a lot easier to memorize the track layout, but it's the fact that, again, you know, on the Nordschleife, if you run a little bit wide, you're dead, but if you run a little bit tight, usually you're okay, whereas here, if you run either a little tight or a little wide, you're probably going to chunk the race car. So twice the opportunities, really, every corner to mess up your race. Stuart Reynolds kind of scything his way here through these two AM category cars, lap cars as you might call it.
You know, we got just over or just under 20 minutes to play here, and I think the second half of the race, something just tells me things are going to get interesting, because now we're going to get into uncharted territory where these guys, you know, the first race was only 25 minutes. Things like tire wear and what you've decided to do on pit road, you know, whether it be changing them, not changing them, all that's going to come into play now.
I'll be curious to see what happens here in the next 20 or so minutes to see John Casey here. He continues to tail Greg Brockway just ahead of those guys. That's that purple Ford GT. And it's Ethan Bass. He's currently 5th in the pro category, so you can really start to see all these cars kind of intermingling more so than we saw. Pretty much, we didn't see it at all in that 25-minute race, and that's just because the pace difference from one class of cars to the other is not great enough that you saw lapping being done. But anymore, not only is there the pit stop, but we're about 6 minutes past what we did last time out. Say again, Daniel? Oh yeah, 69 degrees tach temperature. Nice. That's very cold compared to where we started during the 25-minute sprint race today. It was 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So imagine, if you will, that we're just 70. That'd be a 39 degree track temperature swing. So all these guys, if your car handled well in the heat, it's probably not going to handle well in the cold. And luckily for some of these guys, if it handled pretty poor in the heat, it might do pretty darn good in the cold. So we'll just see if any of these guys' lap times really start to pick up.
Yeah, you're starting to see a lot of shadows on the track and everything else. It's getting late in the day here at Long Beach. And late in the day translates to cooling the track. Look at the shadows as they come around here, and you can see them. Well, that one's going under the bridge, but you can see the trees on the side of the track and everything else. So all those spots tend to actually even make the track a little cooler.
Yeah, because again, kind of just being blocked from the sun. We still have an additional 17 minutes left in this race, so there's still a lot that could go on. Chase Wilson, currently your leader in the pro category. He has yet to make his pit stop. Kai Dayel in the 2nd spot, followed by Kyle Boss in 3rd, Sean Reynolds 4th, Ethan Bass in 5th. This look here in split screen, you've got Greg Brockway on the right, John Casey on the left. These two drivers are fighting over the 2nd position in the AMP category. Kind of hard to believe that if you just kind of survive the race for right now, you're going to walk out with a podium.
Yeah, a lot of drivers have met the wall and had some bad vibrations. There you go. There's your Beach Boys reference for you, Austin. But yeah, or whoever's going to survive this are going to have the good vibrations and get a nice podium out of it.
Yeah, that's right. They get to go California dreaming here in a couple minutes. Maybe, again, just to stick with those references, might have some California girls down there in Victory Lane.
I think Daniel is ready to pull the plug on us here, so we might probably need to be.
We'll shelve it for a minute.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, before Daddy takes away our hot rod.
Oh, nothing like bad jokes on a Wednesday evening. But luckily for us, we've got good racing to hopefully distract you guys here from Long Beach.
Yeah, these guys continue to put on a good show. Chase Wilson, currently your leader here. He continues to be the leader in his white BMW in the pro category. Good to see him back up there. Yeah, he hasn't pitted yet, so there's a reason he's still your leader. Kai Diel should resume the lead here as soon as Chase brings that white BMW down pit road. Looks like Rich Calais is the leader in the Pro-Am category again by virtue of not having taken his pit stop already. Word to hear from Daniel that the pit lane time is 50 seconds, so Chase Wilson has a gap of 22 seconds back to Kai Diel, so he's definitely going to lose that. Should drop him down to about 5th position in class. Rich Calais currently has, he's got about 40 seconds back to Blake Scott, maybe 35 or so, so he'll definitely drop down into what should be about 3rd or 4th in the Pro-Am category. We'll see in a couple laps, so anything is still to play. There's still, again, 15 minutes left in this race.
Yeah,
This
we've
is
already
just
seen
about
pit road. We've also seen pit road already collect somebody, so it's just pitting is the easiest part.
Oh, Chase Wilson down on the pit road, so he's going to forfeit the lead here. Kydale should come by this time and collect it. And yeah, John, I mean, to your point, we've already seen it take out one driver. That was Stuart Reynolds. He lost a good couple seconds worth of time. And 15 minutes was the soonest we saw anybody come in. So 15 minutes is about the longest you could go toward the end of the race without pitting. You see Kyle Boss in the third position. He's going to roll on by here. Should easily be able to pass Chase here. Yep, there you see. You can go by on the left-hand side of your screen. Easily up into the second spot. Looks like Chase is even going to lose the third position here to Stuart Reynolds, and he's going to have to be careful too. He's going to have cold tires. You're going to see Ethan Baxter come out of the pits. He's going to be on warm tires. As long as he can get to the backstretch without losing the spot, it should be his. Otherwise, he's really going to have to fight Ethan Ford. And if Ethan passes him, it's going to be almost impossible to get the spot back just due to the lap time difference between these two drivers being so minimal. It's like Rich Calais is in the third position after coming out back onto the track from his pit stop. Still got a podium for him.
As we watch this battle with Chase Wilson, Ethan Bass, one of the things too that we should touch on is all of a sudden, Chase has got a free track in front of him, but Ethan Bass, all of a sudden, this is really difficult because all of a sudden he probably got into a rhythm not having anybody in front of him. Now, all of a sudden, he's got somebody braking in front of him, so he's got to anticipate when Chase is going to brake, when he's going to accelerate, and that can cost you a little bit of time and take a little maybe a lap or two to kind of get that driver's timing down to even try to come back and make a pass. You got to figure out where you're better, what corners you're better, where do you get out of a corner better. So all of a sudden you've got work to do when somebody pulls out like this in front of you.
Yeah, not just that too, he's got the dirty air on the front of his car now, does Ethan. See him trying to go for a little bit wide there into the fountain corner, see if he can get a move done on Chase. Not quite having it. But yeah, I mean, to go back to your point, John, kind of losing that momentum, all the rhythm you had, it's a big kind of culture shift in terms of what your brain needs to do. And it looks like Ethan, whoa, he's going to go for a spin there as Chase Wilson off the front end there of Ethan Bass. Yeah.
Oh, they're not done yet.
Nope, yep, they're still wrecking each other.
Oh,
that was a hard lick there. And look out here, I think one of the skies is going to come into frame.
Wow.
Might have been Aaron Beaver. Boy, that was
I thought things were going to get interesting this part of the race. That is not what I had in mind.
Ooh, and Ethan crab walking as well. Here comes. Ooh, that was close there.
He is going to struggle trying to get through that. That hairpin's going to give him a world of trouble.
I don't think he'll make it.
Actually,
I think the way that car is pointing, I think if he can get to the hairpin, it should be easy for him to get through it.
No, he wrecked before he got there. I heard that car hit the wall right as it went by the camera there.
Yeah, I figured that was him. I kind of just wanted to see how easy it was going to be for him to make the hairpin with how much that thing was dog tracking.
Tough break for Ethan there.
Yeah, he was doing well. But, that's as in racing, you have good days and you have bad days. Looking at Jimmy Littleton there in the 5th position in the pro category. Back to look at Chase Wilson there in his white BMW. Still looking to, I mean, he had a contact twice there with Ethan, and I don't see a single scratch on that car.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was looking at that car close, and yeah, I don't know that he's gotten any kind of damage that's going to really affect that car too much. Doesn't look like it does.
Yeah, for getting spun once and then spinning another car.
Didn't he backed into the wall, though? You would have thought.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell if he stopped the car or if he hit the wall, but
it was close.
Either way, doesn't look like it's damaged.
No, maybe he didn't hit the wall. I kind of thought maybe he did, but I mean, that wing is straight. You know these iRacing wings. You don't have to get into the wall very hard. You back it in at 5 mile an hour, and it's going to damage your wing. So I'm going to bet you're right. He probably didn't get the wall there.
Yeah, you don't even have to touch the wing to get damage on
That's
the wing.
true.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
can just, glance a wall and with the bumper, and the wing will get a kink to it, or you can back into the wall or get hit by another car and you'll bend the wing as well.
I actually at Knoxville, which is a dirt track, in a winged sprint car, damaged the top wing, riding the cushion right against the wall. Never touched the wall, but the predictive code thought I was gonna go wing first into that wall.
Yeah, just topple over. That's that's kind of funny.
Wasn't at the time.
Well, I can assume you lost a lot of
now.
downforce.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny now, but yeah, at the time I was like, what? And I knew I didn't hit the wall, but yeah, I was just illustrating your point. All you have to do is get close enough, and you may get damage from it.
See, there's Stuart Reynolds, Kyle Boss going around the car there. I believe that's Mark Scott, might be Blake Scott. One of the Scotts, anyways. Oh, no, that's Aaron Beaver. Excuse me. That is Aaron Beaver behind both those drivers. He's in the M category. The two drivers ahead of him are in the Pro one, so he just kind of pulled over the side, let them both on by. They continue to fight for the second spot. They're on the podium. Kai Diel with a 6-second lead. He's checked out from these guys, and with only 8 minutes to go, something catastrophic would need to happen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, catastrophe is literally what, every corner on this track almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a possibility for it anyway.
We'll see if you can continue to bring it around here. At this point, it's a good idea to start nursing, whether it's a drink at a party or something you might do at a hospital. Just try and stretch this thing out as long as possible.
And Stewart does not look content to sit there either for that position. So I think this is going to get contested, and we've seen what ambition can do with some of these passes here. Stewart, though, from what I've seen, Reynolds there has been very patient when he needs to be. Now, he looks out to the inside there. I'm kind of wondering, with 7 minutes to go, where does that patience level stand right now?
Yeah, I'm curious myself, when does it run out maybe too? I mean, is he just looking for an opportunity? He looks there to the inside,
yeah,
goes
there he
around the
goes.
outside, deep into the
outbreak
corner
him.
there. He's going to go around the outside. Will Kyle let him have it? He's going to try and fight back here, but if he's not careful, he's going to have the outside going to this right-hander. Oh, room given, room taken, side by side. I don't know how much they touched there. That's absolutely great.
I don't know
racing.
how they made it through that area. Unbelievable. What a good piece of driving from both those guys.
Yeah, that was phenomenal stuff from both these guys as they continue to fight for second place in the Pro-Am category. Looks like Stewart's going to shove the car to the inside for this double left-hander. Kyle, though, is going to have the inside for the hairpin. We'll see if they can cross over each other. Oh, he expected there to be room. And,
Wow,
and I think Kyle took so long getting through the corner.
Well, no, I think Kyle Boss, he parked it because I don't think he was going to make the corner.
No, he was not.
And he just came to a stop, so he didn't hit the outside wall. Well, Reynolds was trying to cross them over simultaneously, and they met there. And that's, at some point, man, you were asking, where's the patience run out? I think we just found the answer.
Yeah, I think you're right. If that was me behind the wheel, that Lamborghini, I'd be ticked off right now. I would just start taking weird chances. I gave the opportunity to race for it, and instead you had to blow the corner there and kind of rob me of the opportunity to come back at you. Damage my own car. We'll see if Stewart feels the same.
Evidently he does, because he's already reeled him back in. And here we go, same part of the track, about the same distance again. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, I got a pretty solid run there out that last right-hander. Not quite close enough to do anything. I think he's going to start thinking about it, though.
Yep, Boss went low there to defend, and
he tried to block him. Yeah, you know what? I don't stand for that either. If you want to block me, I'll just send you. Gonna try to go for the over/under again. I think he's gonna have him here.
Yep,
good
he's
launch
gonna
off
have
the
it.
corner. Yeah. Nope, no contest anymore. Easily second spot there to Stuart Reynolds. We'll see if Kyle does anything here going down into turn one. He's thinking about it. Yeah, he got enough of a draft there. He's going out to the right side of the track.
that damage that's on the nose of Stewart might have played a difference going down that front stretch there.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, he looked like he was down a lot on top end.
Well, yeah, and remember, he went nose into that wall where you could probably damage some things in that car, in the
Yep.
front of that car. So that looked very evident going down that front stretch there.
Yeah, I'd also be curious too how much wing these guys have in their car. The Mercedes has been typically going down a long straightaway, the best car to be in for that top speed, just with that torque it has. Looks like Stuart Reynolds is going to be able to pull away for right now with the second position. Just about 4 minutes left here. Kai Diel, it was a 6-second lead for him a couple laps ago. It's now to 10 seconds with just how much these two guys have been battling for second. So Kai's just pulling away at this point.
Yeah, we're coming up now on 3 minutes to play here. So, you know, we're talking what, maybe 1-2 more laps here, or 2 or 3 more laps, should I say.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are pulling 1 minute 20 laps. I think we should have 2 laps to go before the end of this thing. We'll have to see what Kai does here as time ticks down. Going from one driver in Blake Scott to another one, another Aerokinetics driver. That's Aaron Beaver. And that number 97 Mercedes. Aaron's been, apart from that slide he had earlier today, he's been on rails, man. He's a big fan of this this street circuit scene here in SoCal. And Aaron's been on a hot streak the last couple races. He's gotten a lot of wins. Of course, he comes into this, you know, these races tonight, 1 spot behind Matthew Plaisance in the championship standings. We'll have to see after you factor in the drop weeks how everything is kind of sorted out between those 2 drivers for the lead in the AM championship standings. And these guys, John, are racing for a lot. I mean, there's some good prizes on the line if you're finishing in the podium positions. But boy, I mean, the prizes, I mean, they're all great for second and third, but that first place prize is, I mean, way, way better than the second, third place ones.
Well, that's usually how it is in real life too. So it's probably the way it should be here. But you know, I've always been one more for the bragging rights. Give me the trophy. You know, I mean, the money's nice and all, but I'd rather have the trophy or whatever, whatever can signify that I was the best at that particular day or that particular season.
Yeah, for sure. Got about a minute 20 left here for Kai Diel, so he should get the white flag this time by. Went down the backstretch now into the double right-hander. For the second to last time, we'll go through the hairpin. Should get the white flag to signify 1 lap to go here at Long Beach. There it is, white flag's out, so all he has to do is make it around this track 1 more time, and you can tell he's been nursing it. I mean, Stuart Reynolds has already basically ate about a second out of his lead. It was, yeah, another second this last time by, and I'm not sure if maybe this is Kai saving some fuel. He's definitely got to be taking it easy, man. At this point right now, there's really no reason to push.
As difficult as this track is, yeah, I would think just trying to bring it home in one piece is what he's doing.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's got a big enough lead too, 8.5 seconds. And, you know, Kel Yarborough always said, you know, what's a good lead if you don't use it up, you know?
Absolutely. But Dick Trickle always said, you know, to finish first you must finish. So that's the one I like a little better.
Yep, and I'm sure he's going to do it. You know, he's only got another half of a lap to go here, heading down this long back straightaway. And he had to fight for this one too. I mean, he gridded up in 5th, and granted Harry didn't start, so he really started in the 4th spot, but it's hard to gain even 3 spots around this tight, twisty circuit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, coming through the hairpin for the last time here. Checkered flag on the streets of Long Beach for Kai Diel in the 50-minute race. Lost another about half a second or so before he crossed the start-finish line. No sweat for him. Stuart Reynolds on his debut finishes first and second in that order. You're gonna have Kyle Boss now cross the start-finish line as well in his Mercedes. It's first, second, third in the pro category. And then Aaron Beaver is going to cross the start-finish line. He's going to grab the victory here in the AM class. Good run for him. He's swept both the races here at Long Beach tonight. And Blake Scott's going to come out of the hairpin for the last time as well. Cross the start-finish line in first for the Pro-Am category. Salvatore blinking and swerving there. Rich Calais takes home second in the Pro-Am category. And there's Mark Scott just now rounding out the hairpin. John Casey able to bring his Ferrari home in second spot for right now. He's got Greg Brockway just behind. These two guys did a great job at sticking near each other. And they'll be the last two to cross the start-finish line. Slowing down, taking it all in.
Did another eventful one in the books, that's for sure.
And with that, we can finally go through here the finishing order for you folks at home, and then we'll go on to any of the drivers that might be waiting in the broadcast room for us. Bringing home the checkered flag in the pro category, Kai Dial, Stuart Reynolds second, Kyle Boss third, Jimmy Littleton fourth with Chase Wilson fifth, Ethan Basson sixth, Dean Tim seventh, and Harry Wills in the eighth spot. In the Pro-Am category, Blake Scott brings home the checkered flag over Rich Calais and Mark Scott, with Kyle Smith fourth, Justin Rousseau fifth, and Shreyas Ventukaraju rounding out the six-car field. And last but not least, in the AM category, Aaron Beaver won the race pretty handily over John Casey and Greg Brockway. Those two drivers stayed within about a second of each other all race long. Matthew Plaisance, not quite his day, spun that car on the first lap, and from there it was pretty much all downhill. Early leave of the session for him. But Rich Calais is standing by. Go ahead and pull him into the booth. Rich, a pretty strong run for you today.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Was hoping for a little bit more. Disconnected from the qualifying sessions, so started on the back foot, so just really try to do all I can.
Yeah, we were curious why it looked like you started to make your first lap there in qualifying with like 2 or 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's just, one of those things that happens. It just crashed on me, so I had to restart. Then obviously panicking to get on there, you go ahead and tap one of the walls that are very, very close together on this track. So, yeah, didn't get a line or a lap in qualifying, but yeah, you'll have those.
Yeah, I always like to say for any road course racing, street courses especially, you need one lap for a banker and another lap for a banger, just in hopes that at least you have something to fall back on. So when you pretty much only have to use your banger, lots of accidents can happen. So not really surprised there that the walls got the better that you have for me time and time again. But you did do a good job. I mean, pretty much from the start of the night, you were on a pretty much upward slope there. I mean, for the most part, started at the back of the field in the first race, kind of worked your way up there with some troubles, and then you started at the front end here. So you did a good job, and good job to recover.
Yeah, definitely. It was tough. Obviously, Long Beach, kind of like a single track. Not a whole bunch of different lines, so really just waiting for the car in front of you to make an error and then capitalize on it. But yeah, I mean, banging doors at Long Beach, can't beat it.
No, I mean, it looked like you guys were having a lot of fun out there, especially the way the track temperature changed. I mean, it was drastic. You guys started and the track temperature dropped about 40 degrees from the start of the night to the end. I mean, did that have a large effect on the handling of the race car?
Oh, yes. At the start of the race, it was like driving on ice. It was just, the tires just weren't there. The Lamborghini was just bouncing all over the place. I couldn't get the front end to get down. So I was having trouble with turning, and then coming out of the hairpin was having trouble with oversteer. So it was just a whole mess at the start of the race. And then you could definitely feel it kick in towards the end of the race. Lap time start dropping. But you get a lot more confident with how the car feels when the track's a little bit cooler. You get that more grip. You start seeing the lines better. You can brake a little bit later, get some more confidence. So, yeah, definitely a tough go at the start for sure.
Well, Rich, I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us, but I can't let you go without first asking who you want to thank for the second place run tonight.
Oh man, thanks, Mom. We had Mother's Day. What was it, Sunday? She made a great meal. I saved the leftovers before the race, so shout out, Mom, for that one.
You love to see it. We've talked to a lot of guys between this week and last, and you were the first one to bring up the fact it was Mother's Day. So everybody needs to be a lot more thankful to their moms. Everybody be more like Rich. I'm sure your mom enjoyed spending time with you. And what were the leftovers, if we may ask?
Oh man, it was grilled chicken, potatoes, and then she always makes this garlic bread with whatever seasoning. I'm her son. She won't tell me the secret recipe, so it's under lock
Jeez.
and key. I know,
Take it
but
to
it's
grave.
yeah, it's addicting.
All right, buddy. Well, congratulations on the second place run tonight. Hopefully, you can do one spot better at the end of the night next week.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was Rich Calais. Always nice to see him in that brightly colored Lamborghini. And John, it looks like you have the opportunity to pick up the Scots.
Yeah, I think we'll bring Blake up here. And Blake, this is John up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, I got a copy, John.
Well, my friend, you survived, and this is a track that seemed to be keeping you guys quite busy out there. We had a few in cars, and the amount of wheel lock that I was seeing going on out there was pretty off the charts. Walk me through your race, and then tell me just how you survived it.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough race, especially race one. They kept me honest. I had to work for that one. I got a great start in race two, got up to top three pretty early on, and just kind of worked my way up. Unfortunately, my dad had a little spin there in the hairpin, but good thing he came back and got on the podium. So yeah, no, this is a really tough track. It's actually kind of a home race for me. I live about 45 minutes away from Long Beach, so I was out there for the IndyCar race not too long ago, and yeah, it's just awesome to take home the win at what I would consider a home race.
Well, I've got to ask, because the level of detail that I see that from this scan and everything, how close did they get?
Oh, it's spot on, from the restaurants around the track to the grandstands, everything, the pits. It's very, very spot on.
Very nice. Well, here the other question that we noticed that I have for you is the track temperature difference between the first stint to the second stint. How much of a difference did that make for you, and just how quick did you realize, wow, all of a sudden I got grip?
Yeah, no, I definitely started noticing my lap times dropping. As the race went on, I just kept getting faster and faster, and I realized, the track did drop quite a bit in temperature. But yeah, I was just looking after my tires, and just so if I needed to push towards the end, I had the tire available to me. But yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing after I took the lead, and kind of checked out from there. So it was a good night.
Well, it was a pleasure watching you, and I'm gonna step back here and give you the floor. Who would you like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the team Aerokinetics, always hooking us up with the best setups around, best liveries. My dad, my racing partner, the grandparents are watching at home, and you guys, thank you so much for putting this on. It's really awesome to, watch it back on YouTube. It's a blast. So thank you guys for everything you do.
Well, thank you very much. But you guys are the show. You guys are make this broadcast. So congratulations, and hopefully we talk to you again next week.
Yeah, hopefully. Have a good night, guys.
Yep, that's Blake Scott. What a good evening he had here. And Austin, who have you caught up with?
Yeah, go ahead and grab Kai Diel, a big winner here, overall winner tonight in the pro category. And Kai did a great job here. I mean, you had to fight for it. You had to gain yourself 3 or 4 spots there before you were able to finally take the lead. But boy, you were scooting away with it for a while, and then it seemed like you kind of just cooled the jets for a couple laps before the finish.
Yeah, well, yeah, first of all, I'd just say, I'd like to say thank you to Twisted. Yeah, the start was pretty hectic. I knew at the start I had to get ahead of Ethan and Kyle, because I knew if they got ahead of me, it was just going to make problems even worse towards the championship. But luckily I got ahead and moved ahead of my teammates, and yeah, it was just I want to say smooth sailing but I'd definitely be on top of it. And luckily at the end, we came out with the win, but it was pretty difficult. And I think it's still going to be pretty difficult for the last 2 rounds. I just have to keep up the pressure. But yeah.
Certainly, I mean, you know, you were talking about being able to get those points away from your teammates to hopefully help you out in the championship. This was the last night that drivers could drop before the last 2 rounds of the season. What's your momentum now going into those last couple rounds being so good tonight?
Well, it's just going to be pretty difficult. I just have to get setups right and just get planning right, because the next 2 races are it's going to be very important because it's I think it's double points for the I can't remember, but it's double points. So I think in order to win this, I'm going to have to win Bathurst, the first and second, and then I'm have to I think I have to win the rest of the races, to be honest. I either have to win them, or I think I have to be ahead of all of them. I have to be ahead of Kyle, and I have to be ahead of Ethan for the next couple of races. Because if I don't, I think if they win it, then it's going to put me in a very tough decision, or it's going to be a loss. But I guess we'll see then.
Yeah, or basically they're going to need to finish very poorly, and you still need to win in order to take back I should say, the championship lead. Well, so knowing that, then, I mean, are you going to go into the next couple races a lot more aggressive, or are you going to have to kind of play it a little bit more conservative just to make sure that you finish?
Well, considering the circumstances, I think I'm going to have to be pretty aggressive at the starts now. I was a little bit more lenient on my starts, but I think I'm going to have to start stepping it up and getting more elbows out. Of course, I guess it really depends on the circumstance. Like if I feel like I need to play passive, I'll play passive. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be 100% aggression next time. It's just not moving people out of the way, but letting them know I'm there and getting the elbows out and see what happens then.
Certainly, man. I look forward to kind of seeing this uptick in aggression from the great Kai DL. Well, Kai, congratulations on your win tonight. Certainly does a number for you in the points going forward. But before I let you go, the floor is yours, man. Who do you want to thank for your win?
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Twisted and Stuart for the setup, and thank you to my mom and dad. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on the win, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, man.
Yep, thank you.
That was Kai DL, big winner here in the pro category for tonight. And it looked like, John, you were going to get to talk to the other Scott as well, but I think Mark had to go a little bit sooner than we anticipated. So with that, we're just going to have to go and wrap up here for tonight. John, this race, I mean, start to finish, I think it was kind of what you expect out of a street circuit, where it's really just close quarters racing from start to finish. And the battles, although scarce, when they do happen, they're a lot more fierce than I think we've been used to seeing all year round.
Yeah, very much so. And I'll tell you this, you heard him say it there. He's going to have to be more aggressive. And he's not the only driver that's going to think that. It's getting down to that time, and elbows out, head up, and boy, I tell you, these next couple weeks, one word comes to mind: exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And that's pretty much going to wrap up coverage tonight for us here in this World Series Leagues GT3 United States Series. On behalf of myself, Austin Belke, my co-commentator John Hine, and our director/producer Daniel Costello behind the scenes, and you for watching. Have a good night.